So should you roll on cobalt-b or not? I've seen a lot of bad takes and I've seen a lot of overreaction to the nerfs. So I want to explain to why they probably did what they did. On CN, the biggest feedback was that cobalt-b stars is too much. She's too dependent on her stars to be the DPS in her kit. And her matrices are useless and never used because there's just better ones in the game. So they tried to address that by nerfing the stars and then buffing the matrices so people might actually use them for once. The thing is, they had to nerf the stars on cobalt-b to address those issues, but on top of that they also had to nerf the stars to kinda align cobalt-b with the global version of the game, as everything on global is kinda nerfed. Like you will see her normal attack has -4% on it, her charge attack has -4% on it, her free attacks into charge attack or her jump charge has -4.7% on it. Frick, not Claudia, but Frick and Nemesis saw similar nerfs to their basic attacks, all getting hit by certain percentages, which is all fine and fair in my opinion. Everything on global is kinda getting nerfed, everything that was good on CN at least. Claudia wasn't viable in CN and therefore they buffed her to try and align her more with Frick and Nemesis and cobalt-b. And while cobalt-b, Nemesis and Frick were very high prior in CN, they kinda tried to tone those back a bit. Also, there's a whole aspect to it that they're trying to milk their money, because they know if they didn't do anything to the pre-2.0 release characters, nobody would buy them. So they're adding flame resonance and lightning resonance to them to make them better in early game. They didn't really touch them in the long term as much, but they're trying to push the urgency of getting them now so people will roll on them. Because I'm pretty sure the 2.0 characters are gonna have the 20% resonance, while the 1.0 characters are only going to have the 15% resonance. That's at least what I think. So, I have a spreadsheet in front of me. Let's get into the actual nerfs and stuff, if you should roll on cobalt-b. Let me just say this to start with. Most of the nerfs are gonna affect dolphins. They're not gonna affect free-to-play or whales. If you're a whale, buy whatever character you want, 6-star them and get the matrices. You do you, you're a whale. You're most likely gonna buy every character for the element you want anyway, right? For free-to-play, the nerfs are targeted at a specific star and the buff is targeted at matrices that you ain't really gonna get anyway. You're mostly looking at C0 and C1 as free-to-play, which wasn't really touched, and you're not looking at matrices. The thing is, cobalt-b is actually stronger at C0 than she was, and slightly stronger at C1. So her C1 skill was nerfed. I can show it here. Let me show. So at C1 on CN it cannot exceed 200%, and on global it's 180%. What does that mean in actual damage? The 2% of current health versus max health doesn't really do any difference, because you're always hitting the 180 or 200% attack. That's always the barrier you're gonna hit. So the current and max, it doesn't really matter. It makes no difference. So if we go back to the spreadsheet, we'll see here on the right side, I have C1 CN and C1 global. You're talking about 2k difference in damage. 2k difference per dodge attack. Those 2k is gonna be made up by the resonance. You're gonna do more than 2k from the resonance alone at 10k attack. You're getting 15% of 10k, which is 1,500. So you're roughly doing the same damage. And this is only on dodge attack, so on every other attack you're doing more damage. On top of that, she got more shatter, so she will shatter targets more, having less downtime on that 50% reduced damage, in return then doing more damage as main DPS, which is mostly what you're gonna be using her for. So the 180 to 200% attack doesn't really affect much. At 20k attack power, which is gonna take a long time to get us free to play, you're looking upwards of 80k, 70k CS at least. People at 50 to 60k CS, they're looking at 15k attack at the moment. Around 60k CS is around 15k attack, which is probably gonna take a long time for free to play as well. It's probably gonna take a few months. Then to get to 80k for the 20k attack power, it's gonna take even longer than that. And you're only looking at 15k, you're looking at a 3k damage nerf for every dodge attack, and for 20k attack power, you're looking at a 4k damage nerf. But then you factor in the resonance attack damage, and it's gonna look more like 200 to 500 damage decrease, which doesn't really matter too much, honestly. She's looking pretty good at C1. She's looking pretty strong at C1. And at C0, she's looking way stronger. If you factor in the shatter bonus on the 200 to 500 damage in dodge attacks, you're probably gaining damage at C1 for the global version, which is really good news for free to play. So C1 is looking better on global for free to play. Now let's get into C3 and C5. That's where it gets really spicy. So on CN, her C3 is doing 90% and her C5 is doing 140%, which are here. Down here I have the matrices, the 2 set and the 4 set. They're the same percentage in CS. Then we have a global at C3 is 40 and C5 is 60. That's a big difference. But we have the matrices. The 2 set bonus is 14 to 20% instead of 13 to 15%, which is kinda odd. They're trying to strip you into getting that 4 set bonus instead. While the 4 set is 24 to 42% and 13 to 25%. So they're really trying to make her matrices viable on global. Is it because of the feedback about how bad her matrices in CN are? Or is it because they actually just want to milk people and force people to buy the matrices because that's where most of the money comes from? Who knows? I can't say if it's because of balance or if it's because of money. I didn't make the changes, but that's 2 points to consider. So I am assuming a fight time of 1 minute and 40 seconds, which I think is pretty reasonable for a bygone floor or something like that. I'm assuming you have 10k attack power, that you're not like overly wailed, although if you're going for C5, you probably have more like 14, 13k attack power, but that's besides the point. 10k attack power. So, from your stars alone, you're gonna be doing 112k damage in a 1 minute and 40 seconds fight. That's from the stars alone at 90%. At 140%, that will be 175k alone. This is at 3 stars matrices. Oh wait, the matrices are down here. This is as C5, so 5 stars. On global, you will be doing 48k at C3. This is the star alone, the 40% damage alone from the star, if we consider 100% uptime burn damage, right? So that's a big difference. You're doing less than half. Then at C5, you have 72k damage versus 175k damage. That's a big difference. They really nerfed the stars a lot. I'm trying to put this into numbers in a perspective of an actual fight, so you can get a general idea of what the damage difference is going to actually be and not just percentages. Then we have the matrices. This is 25% from the 2 set in, or this is the 4 set in CN, I believe, because they swapped them around, and this is gonna be the 2 set in CN. So 25k from the matrices alone at 2 set, and 4 set is gonna be, this is 250k, and this is gonna be 130k. This is for if you have 3-star matrices, so you're getting the 25%. This is if you have 0-star matrices, you're gonna get the 13%. Oh, this is for the burn only. I only took the 4 set burn. I didn't actually take this one. This one matters a bit, but it's only 5%, right? And it starts at 14 instead of 13, so I didn't really calculate this one. So for global, the burn is gonna be 840k at 3-star. 250k versus 840k. You can see how much difference in damage there is here. And then for 0-star matrices, it's gonna be 480k versus the 250k. Now you might be, well, this is 24% damage on matrices, and this is 25%. How is this that much higher? Well, here's the kicker. These seconds are wrong, by the way. I forgot to calculate them. I can do it quickly, actually. Let me pull up my calculator here. And we have 25 Dutches on CN with the 5 Dutch recharges. It's gonna be something like, okay, this is actually gonna be 250. So on CN you have 10 seconds burn for every dodge attack you do. On global you only have 4 seconds burn for every dodge attack you do. So in a 100-second fight, 1 minute and 40 seconds here, you're gonna have a total of 250-second burn uptime. Well, not really. You're only gonna have 100-second actual uptime, because you can't have more uptime than the fight lasts. That just means that you have 150 seconds for error room. So if let's say you do a dodge attack and you apply the burn. You can wait 10 seconds until you need to do the next burn before the current burn runs out, right? That means you have 10 seconds between every dodge attack, which equals to 150 seconds total that you can apply a burn. But you only have to apply a burn for 100 seconds. So you have 150 seconds of error room, essentially. While on global, you can only, the maximum amount of seconds you could apply a burn by perfect timing every burn is 108 seconds, so you only have 8 seconds of error room. That means you need to almost frame perfect dodge to keep the burn up. You have 4-second burn on global, and those 4 seconds are gone. You're gonna need to dodge attack again to apply the 4 seconds. Every dodge is 5 seconds to recharge. So you start the fight with a dodge, apply 4-second burn. After 4 seconds, you use another dodge, and then apply another 4 seconds. And then after, when the burn is on 3 seconds, you recharge 1 dodge, and now you're on 2 dodges. And then after 8 seconds, you use another dodge. Now you have 1 dodge to apply the burn again, but then you restore 1 dodge. So you have to manage your dodges very carefully on global, because you only have 8 seconds of time error. So if you apply the burn at 0 seconds to 4 seconds, and then reapply the burn at 5 seconds, you're losing 1 second. Then you only have 6 seconds left of error time. So on global, it's gonna be next to impossible to keep 100% uptime on the burn. But in return, global's burn take every 0.5 seconds, while CN burn only takes every second. So you're technically getting 200 seconds of burn damage out of a 100-second fight if you keep it up 100% of time. Or on CN, you're only getting 100 seconds. So when you have 100 seconds of burn time for 25% damage of your attack buff, it comes out to 250k damage in a 1 minute and 40 second fight. But when you have 24% for 200 seconds in a 1 minute and 40 second fight, you come out with 480k damage, because you're taking 2 times a second instead of 1 time a second. So even though the percentage is 1% lower on 0 stars compared to 3 stars in CN, you're doing way more damage because it's ticking twice as fast or twice as much. Just to explain that, I don't actually have the 10 seconds and 4-second burn timer down here. Okay, so matrices aside, what is the actual damage between the stars and the matrices in the overall? Well, for C0 or for C3, 3-star matrices on CN, this is gonna be the damage difference. It's not a lot. What is it? 1,375k versus 1,320k? You're obviously losing some damage here. But this is why matrices is gonna be so much more important for your damage on global than it is on CN. People might say, oh, but matrices, I don't think they're worth it anymore. I don't know. I think they are. Personally, I think Faucet Cobalt is definitely worth it now. Like, it's so much damage. It's insane. So C3, 3-star matrices, it's looking like the same damage as CN basically. There isn't much difference at all. So that's pretty balanced. Remember, she also has fire resonance, which isn't counted in here. We're actually gonna get a lot closer to this damage with the shatter and the resonance. So the C3 and 3-star matrices gap is almost non-existent between global and CN. The kicker here is the C5. It went from 140 to 60%. You're gonna see quite a bit of damage difference here from global to CN. It's like 2 million versus 1.5 million, right? That's quite a bit of difference in damage. But everything on global has been nerfed compared to CN. So how much does this damage difference really matter? Well, it's hard to tell because we haven't seen what they're gonna nerf the 2.0 characters for. Maybe they're gonna nerf the 2.0 characters as much as Cobalt, and in that sense, Cobalt will actually be looking pretty strong. If they, however, barely touches the 2.0 characters, C5 Cobalt is gonna be looking a little bit weak compared to CN or other 2.0 characters. So now we're gonna take the total damage for 0 stars. CN, it's 1.2 million, and global it's gonna be 960k. Right? 100,000, 10,100, yeah. So there's a bit of difference at C3 0-star matrices, right? This is with matrices. Remember, this is C3. C3 damage difference is here. With matrices, this is the damage difference at 0-star matrices. C5 at 0-star matrices, it's gonna look pretty bad. So the question is Cobalt worth it looking at these numbers without knowing how they're gonna nerf 2.0 characters? I would say if you're a whale, you're gonna roll on whatever you want anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you're free to play, you're only really going for C1 or C0, which is arguably, it's actually stronger on global. So would I roll for her as free to play? No. Why? Because Annabella was released. If Annabella hasn't been shown, I would have 100% rolled on cobalt-b. But because of Annabella being so much stronger right now at C1/C0, and even if Cobalt comes to standard, it's not looking too good for free-to-play players, because you're not gonna get him matrices, which is most of her damage now. So C6 Cobalt without matrices isn't gonna be that good for free-to-play players. So I would not roll for her as a free-to-play player. I would wait for Annabella. Maybe they nerf Annabella to some point that she's gonna be on the same level as Cobalt, but I don't think they will. So free-to-play, skip this banner. Unless it's like your wife where you absolutely need her, you love her. Go ahead, get her C0 or C1. You're gonna be fine. She's really strong when she releases at C0 or C1, but she will fall off as the months goes on and other characters comes out. Well, she only really falls off when Annabella comes out, which might take over half a year, so it's a pretty good investment to go see C0, honestly. If you wanna run Ruby, Cobalt, Lyn, and you have enough roles as free to play, yeah, it's fine to go for. But personally, I will skip her and go Ruby, Lyn, Humor. Now for Dolphins, should you roll on her? Well, here's the thing. Her C3 doesn't do a lot of damage. So, if you're Dolphin and you can't afford to get her matrices, I wouldn't roll for her. If you're like a small whale or a bigger dolphin. You might look to get a C1 with a 4 set matrices, and you'll be in a pretty good spot. Obviously, then, so my priority would be get a C0 or C1, get 4 set matrices, then get a C3, then get a 3-star matrices, and then get a C6. That would be my priority list, as the matrices are what's gonna be most of your damage from Cobalt. So yeah, you can consider that if you are well as well, although you're probably gonna get both. It's C0, C1, Cobalt. Then it's S0, matrix set 4. Then it's C3 Cobalt. Then it's S 3-star matrices set 4. C5 plus C6 Cobalt. So that's gonna be my priority list. If you have enough to get a C1 and get a matrices set, that's good. If you have any more money to spend or want to spend any more, you can get a C3 and it's gonna help you out a bit. But then jumping from C3 to more damage is gonna be really steep, because you need a 3-star and C5 and C6 really. So these two I'd only go for if I was a whale. If I was a mini whale, maybe I would go for this one, C3 Cobalt, and if I'm like a high spender dolphin level, maybe I would go for the 4 set. If you are going fire team, of course. And if you're free to play and she's your waifu, I'll go for the C0/C1. And if you don't really care about Cobalt and are a free to play player, I'll just skip her and wait for Lyn and Ruby. They're gonna have resonance 100% anyway. Even if they do get nerfed, well, fuck it. At that point, it is what it is, right? Then we'll get Cobalt on Re1 if we have to. Or wait for Annabella to see who is better. That's everything. Good luck on your gachas.